Hi, I'm Joanna of Epic. Here at Epic, we're starting a new series to highlight people and organizations who are making a difference in Iraq. We call it Partners for Change. As part of the series, I recently sat down with Virginia Tice. Virginia is the CEO of Nature Iraq Foundation, a foundation set up in the U.S. to support Nature Iraq and other environmental groups in Iraq and the region. In this first installment of my two-part interview, we talk about her recent experience in Iraq, the origins of the country's first environmental organization, and the state of conservation in Iraq today.
My name is Virginia Tice, and I have two titles. I am the attorney for Nature Iraq, and I'm the CEO of the Nature Iraq Foundation. I started helping a law professor friend of mine doing research on various projects. Things like curriculum reform for the Baghdad School of Law. The Kurdistan Regional Government was developing at the time a 10-year rule of law project. So helping the research with those kind of projects.
Mm-hmm.
Nature Iraq Foundation is a U.S. nonprofit whose mission is to provide administrative as well as financial support to Nature Iraq as well as other environmental organizations working in Iraq and the Middle East. So I moved to Iraq in 2009 from Hawaii, and I started doing work there with an American human rights NGO. But within weeks of living there, I started volunteering for Nature Iraq, which is an Iraqi environmental nonprofit. And so started volunteering, then started working part-time, and then eventually a year and a half after starting working with them, started working full-time. And then as I kept working there, I just started to think about the ways in which to build on their success and to help Nature Iraq, as an Iraqi organization, try to overcome some of the obstacles they have from being an Iraqi organization. And so that was the main motivation of starting the foundation. So that's where the idea kind of came from.
Great. So we can segue a little bit into what are the environmental issues in Iraq. So what would you say is the current state of the environment and environmental conservation?
It's a huge question.
Right.
But generally speaking, the environment of Iraq has suffered from several decades of bad policies and bad resource management, as well as natural and man-made disasters, of pollution, conflict, and infrastructure deterioration. There are also other major concerns. Drought, desertification, and saline groundwater are devastating to the country that used to be the breadbasket of the region. Are now experiencing these problems. And then there's also huge considerations for hazardous and non-hazardous waste disposal, both household and industrial. So, yeah. But I do just want to say that Iraq has a incredibly rich biodiversity and rich natural resources, and I truly think that the leaders are starting to recognize that environmental protection is going to be part of a secure and healthy future Iraq.
Exactly. So you kind of just answered my next question, that there already are some conservation efforts that are in place and are starting to happen.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more going on than I think most people outside the country realize, both by the government and by the federal government, by the regional government in Kurdistan, as well as nonprofits and just local communities that are starting to take action. Just since 2003, when the creation of the Ministry of Environment in Iraq, which was the first Ministry of Environment in the history of the country, was created in 2003. And they've passed a number of environmental legislation, for example, encompassing all areas of protection: water, soil, air, environmental impact assessments, hazardous waste. We are pushing to try to get some of the regulations that spell out the specifics of how to carry out that law. We want those passed, but there's been some really great first starts in terms of environmental protection. There's not a history or a culture of environmental advocacy, or really most kinds of advocacy. There's just not that culture. I mean, decades of dictatorship have left a population that is very ill-equipped to carry out robust advocacy campaigns. But I would argue that the average Iraqi understands the importance of environmental protection. Iraqi people, all people, know when their water is dirty,
Exactly.
when their air is dirty, when there are hazardous waste on the roadside. You know, people understand that this is a threat to their health. They see the consequences for their crops, their businesses, their children. So yes, I would argue that Iraqis care deeply about environmental protection. Some of our most recent projects in the last year has been helping with the Mesopotamian Outreach Project, which is a new project of Nature Iraq to celebrate and bring awareness about the natural and cultural heritage of Mesopotamia. We also help with the Iraq Upper Tigris Waterkeeper, which serves as a voice for the Upper Tigris River and to try to protect the river and water resources. And we also helped fund a really fun project in April of this year on Earth Day called the Green Arts and Music Festival.
Oh, wow.
That was in Sulaymaniyah, which is in the northern region of Iraq. And it was a festival in a huge park called Azadi Park, which means Freedom Park in Kurdish. And we had photography and paintings and puppetry and music and information booths and bands playing, all to celebrate the environment, the importance of protection of the environment, as well as to do some good advocacy and awareness raising in the population and the community.
Right, and have a little fun.
Right.
And what do you hope to see the Nature Iraq Foundation accomplish over the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, we would like to expand our current operations. We'd like to continue some of the projects we funded, like the Green Arts Festival. We'd like to continue with that annually. And then we'd like to expand. We'd like to help the Iraq Upper Tigris Waterkeeper become its own organization. And then hopefully we'd like to see more waterkeepers up and down the Tigris River to be able to help protect these ultimately so important watersheds.